Get started with some housekeeping, and then I'm going to turn it over to Sue, who's the lead instructor for today. But while we're letting people join in, I'm just going to go over how to use some of the Zoom technology. I'm Jessica McIntosh, and I'm the training program coordinator at Rookery Bay, and I'm going to be facilitating some of the technology along with Marissa. So if you need help, if you have questions today about the technology, you can't hear something, just go ahead and use the chat box to ask us questions about any technology issues you're having, any resources. Use the chat. You can open that up now. If you hit your little chat button, you can say hi and let everybody know where you're from. It's always fun to see where folks are from. Today in the webinar format, we're going to ask that you use the chat to say hi, to have a discussion, to let us know about any tech issues. But for questions about what Sue is going to present, we want you to use the Q&A box. So that's on your control panel. If you click on it, it's going to open up where you can ask questions. And it'll look something like this. It's a little bit different in my format. So you can submit questions that you have about the content of the webinar. We will have some time for Sue to answer questions, but because there's so many people today, we're going to ask you to use the upvote feature, the little thumbs up. So once folks start asking questions, if you hit that thumbs up, it's like a voting system. And the one with the most thumbs up, the most votes is going to show up at the top. And that's how we'll prioritize questions for Sue during the webinar. And the third thing that we have for housekeeping today is just a reminder to avoid distractions, to turn away from email, to really be present. We will have a break in the middle of the webinar for you guys to step away if you need to do anything. But while we're here, try to avoid distractions. If you can't help it and you miss something, also know that we are recording the webinar today, and we will share out that recording afterwards with you guys. And one little tip for today that I'm going to add in is when Sue is doing her screen share, if it is small for you that you can't quite see everything that she's doing, at the top of your screen, you should see this green bar where it says you're viewing Jessica McIntosh's screen right now. There's a view options bar. If you click on that, it's going to drop down and you can go to the zoom ratio and you can increase that. So it's going to fit to window as your default. You can zoom in more. And then you can actually pan around on the screen, or you can zoom in, go back to that same view options, and you can say to follow the presenter's pointer. And then as Sue is panning around the page with her pointer and pointing at different things, it's going to automatically take you there. So if you're having trouble seeing, if your screen is really small, you can play around with that. If that's all too complicated, just leave it as the default settings and you're going to be just fine for today. So please ask your questions in the Q&A. Say hi to us in the chat. I see lots of great things coming in from people all over. So great to see so many different folks. And with that, Sue, I think I'll turn it over to you and let you get started with all the content.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And I am absolutely thrilled that there's almost 300 people on here too. So, and I need to tell you that every time I teach this class, I learn something new. So I really enjoy these classes. Last year, we did a class and someone submitted one of their story maps from that class. And that's what we sent you to have a look at before the course. But it's great to get feedback like that. And we've been talking about actually having some way for participants to share their products from the classes and be able to have the other participants view them as well, because we can all learn each other as well as just from me. So I'm going to go ahead and Jess, how are we with the people on? Are we mostly there, do you think?
I think so. I've seen the numbers slow down of people joining in.
Okay, excellent. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we are going to, okay. And do you see my screen? Is everything good? Whoops.
I don't see it yet.
Okay, well, here we go. Let's see.
As much as we practice, there's always.
I know. Okay, share my screen, screen 2. And oops. Okay.
There we go.
Okay. So here we go. So We are going to go a lot of places on my computer. And so if anything goes awry, please let Jess know, and she'll let me know as well. So today we're going to learn about ArcGIS Online, which is an ArcGIS program, and also about ArcGIS Storymaps, and how we can use both of these things alone, as well as integrate them together to be able to tell a larger story. So I know that people are from all over the place, so I just want to tell you very quickly about our reserves, Rookery Bay in Florida and Wells Reserve in Maine. And we are part of a 29 reserve system of National Estuarine Research Reserves. And we are all over the coast of the continental United States, as well as Alaska, Hawaii, and even Puerto Rico in the Caribbean. And what we do is we all do different jobs, but they all work towards having healthy coastal ecosystems and thriving coastal communities. And I know that some of you, or quite a few of you, are in similar organizations that try to do similar things. So just as an overview of what we're going to do today is we're going to be making an ArcGIS online map. And then we're going to take a break and have some time for burning questions before we take a little bio break. And then we're going to come back and make a story map. So let's see what's next here. So I just want to talk for a minute about the ArcGIS online accounts. So there's actually 3 ways that you can use an account to make ArcGIS maps, story maps, survey 1, 2, 3. The first is if your organization has an organizational account and you have access through that organizational account. The second is if you have a public account or want to get a public account, that is a free account, but it sort of has a limited capacity to do everything that you can do with a developer account. It's very basic, very easy to get, and everything that we can do today, that we're doing today, you can do on a public account. If you want to take your skills further, you can sign up for a developer's account, which is what we suggested. It is also free, but it unlocks more tools and more capabilities when making maps and story maps. And it's got this one question that was added since last year that says, do you want to use, and it gives you a whole list of complicated looking things. You can choose any of those things, and it doesn't matter because we're not really going to use it to that level of difficulty. We're just going to use it for basic things. And you can always change that. If you get really good at all of this stuff, you can always change that later. Okay, so one of the questions that I get a lot of is I created all these things, but now I can't find them. So where does my stuff live? And so when you create an ArcGIS account, it gives you space on the web to keep your stuff. And so when you log in, you have that little person up in the corner. You can always, what we're actually looking for is a tab of your stuff that's called content. And so if you're in a map, you can use the down caret by the ArcGIS symbol to open up this and click on your content. And you can also get to it from your, I don't have it on my screen right here, but from your little person or profile up in the right-hand corner. And when you open it up, it lists everything you make. So your story maps, your web maps, all kinds of things. And when you first start, of course, this will be empty. But I know that once you get going, you're going to be making a lot of things. So this is where it lives, in our content area. So we're going to be talking about two different ArcGIS programs, and there's actually quite a few programs in ArcGIS. All of these programs live online. They're all free to use. And so the two that we're concentrating on today are ArcGIS Online, which enables us to make maps that when we share them, they become interactive maps. And what I mean by that is people can pan and zoom and click on the items on the map and get more information. And so that's what we mean, we mean by interactive. And then the Storymaps program is also a standalone program. But the beauty of these programs is that you can integrate them. So instead of having just a graphic of a map, you can have an interactive map inside of your story map. So we just want to have a brief look at how these programs work, and then I'm going to dive right into actually creating a map in these programs and showing you all of the tools. And what I tell everyone that takes these courses is click on all the buttons. See if you can break it. Go into every little option and see what it does, and just keep clicking away and see what these what all of the options for you are. And so what happens in a ArcGIS online map is that it gives us a basic background and a choice of backgrounds actually, but then it's up to us to add information that is going to make our map interesting. So we can add other geographic information that we collected. We can add maps from a program called Survey 123, where people go out and collect information for us. And we can also bring in aerial data and all kinds of data from the web. So that makes it really interesting. And then the output of this is a map, an interactive map. The same thing with story maps, that we have the ability to input all kinds of things. Narrative in the form of text or quotes or paragraphs, photos and videos, links, and all sorts of graphics and charts. So again, these are the kinds of inputs that we can have for both of these. But the best thing is when we get our map output from ArcGIS Online, that can serve as one of the inputs for the story map as well. So in a minute, I'm going to go to a browser and put in ArcGIS Online login, and then we're going to take off from there. But I wanted to give you a quick preview of what it's going to look like. It's going to come up with a page just like this. And on the side, it's going to have 4 directions. And these are the directions that if you get lost anywhere, you can always go back to this detail tab right here, come up with the same 4 directions, and just follow them to make any kind of map. So we are going to go ahead and go to a browser, and we're going to just put in ArcGIS Online Sign-In, and it's going to come up with this page right here. We're going to log in, and then we're going to go from there. So here we go. So we're going to start over here, sign in to ArcGIS Online. This is my sign-in. I hit the sign-in button. And, well, okay, because I've already signed in, we're just going to have to hit this little map tab. So that will take us to what I was just showing you. So here we are. Choose an area, decide what to show, add more to the map, save and share your map. It's very, very intuitive. So the first thing we want to look at is this map background. And every year, the choices of map backgrounds just sort of explode. So currently, if you hit this base map tab, you're going to come up with 27 different backgrounds. And most people immediately go to the imagery background, and that's what they use all the time. But sometimes the data that we're showing doesn't show up very well on an imagery background. And so everyone, we put in our home and want to see our backyards, but just be aware that they give you all of these choices so that you can match the background to the type of data that you're using. So I always encourage people to try out 5 or 6 different backgrounds once they have data on their page. So for instance, some of them, let's see, we can have, instead of an aerial background, we can have a topographical background, which just shows us general things. We can have some backgrounds are actually meant to be used more zoomed out than zoomed in. For instance, this is the National Geographic's background. It is a gorgeous background. But if we zoomed in to somewheres in Maine, it starts to get very plain and doesn't show us very much. So this particular background, you can see, is meant to be used at a certain zoomed out level. So if you're looking at all of Maine or New England, something like that. Let's see if there was any other background. This background, these 2 backgrounds in particular, are wonderful graphics backgrounds. Let's see if we can get that one to load. It's like someone drew the map for us. So these are very nice if you have just really simple data about the story that you're telling. And so that one and the antique one are very nice to use if we're using them for very simple story, very simple data. Okay, so that's how the backgrounds all work. Let's just keep this one for a second. And the first direction that we have is choose an area. So you can, with your mouse button clicked down, you can pan, you can use your mouse wheel to zoom in and zoom out. But you can also look for a place and it will zoom into it for you. So if I put in Wells, Maine, it will find it and zoom way in. And it says, well, if this isn't the right Wells, Maine, you can show more results and they'll give you North Dakota and all these other places. And we'll hide that. And there's this add to map notes, and we're going to actually do that in a little while. We're going to zoom into places and add them to our map note layer. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. So that's how we choose our area of interest. Once we're in our area of interest, if we know that we're going to be zooming all around, we can use this Bookmarks tab to add a bookmark and say, well, wherever I am in the future, I want to come back to Wells, Maine. And that will save a bookmark. And then when you click out of it, let's see, close it. When we open it back up, we can see that Wells, Maine is here again. So that's a little bit on how to just navigate around the map. The second thing is to decide what to show. So we already talked about base maps, and now we're going to talk about this right here, the add data. There's several ways to add data. The first way is to search for a layer that you already own or that's already on your computer. So let's just try that for a minute. And it will, remember the contents area that I talked about? That will actually look there first in the contents area and pull up things that I already own. So one of them is the Wells Reserve Trail System. So let's just click on that and add it to the map, just so that we can see how that works exactly. And so I have this layer, it has the names of our trails on it already, and it just overlays on top of your background. So if you didn't want to, if you don't have anything in your My Contents or that's not where it's located, you can also, well, let's just go back and keep adding this. You can also browse from something called the Living Atlas. This has, I don't know, there you go, 3,600 layers of information that the parent company ESRI has put together for people to use. And a lot of these are nationwide or region-wide layers, but it allows you to search for a layer. And so if we put in something like conserved lands, or let's see if it comes up with a conserved lands layer. So it has these regional layers and a whole bunch of other things that have conserved in the tags that makes it searchable. But really, I didn't find anything that's going to apply to what we're going to be doing today. So we're going to sort of let you investigate that one. And then there's another one. It says add layers from the web. And when we click on that, it gives us, that says, what type of data are you referencing? And these choices, so for the state of Maine, we have a state geography department that has a bunch of state layers that are available that they serve up to us. And so they're called a WMS server. So if I had the URL to them, I could choose this, put in their URL, and then choose one of their state layers that they're serving up to us. So again, that's something that I'm going to let you try to figure out with your state layers. And then this one here is add a layer from file. So it's not in my contents area. It actually lives on my computer. So I have some layers that I put on my computer, and let's see if I can find them. So what I did was Jess sent me the attendee list, and what I did was I took the zip codes out of that list and I saved them in a whole bunch of different formats. And one of the formats is this GeoJSON format. And so I'm going to add that to my map, and it's going to show us where everyone is from. So you can see that Florida wins for how many people have joined from Florida and the Gulf Coast. And see what I mean by maybe this isn't the best map for this kind of data, but we can also change the symbols. So when it pulls up a bunch of data for us, it automatically pulls up this symbols category. And we can, right now, it's symbolizing it by zip code. But if we just wanted to have them the same color, we can go ahead and pick this option and choose a symbol, make it something bright, and choose its size and say, go ahead and do it, and say, okay, and see how much brighter this is. And look, we even have someone from France. So this is really exciting stuff. So then we say, okay, and we say done. And now when we look at not our information tab, but our contents tab, you can see that we own two things so far. We own our Wells Trails and our zip code. We have the ability to turn off one of these or both of these and turn them back on. And we also have the ability to make one draw on top of each other. So if we wanted to change their order, we would just hold on to the bar over here. Now, it's not letting us do this for a particular reason, because one is a dot system and one is a line system. Sorry about that. So, okay, so we have two layers. Let's see if there's anything else. So the last thing that we can do is create our own layers. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do this map notes right here. And I'm going to show you how you can create data on the fly. What that means is you can create it while you're in the map and you don't have to get it from anywhere else. We can name it anything. And actually, what we're going to do is start making a map that we can use in the story map that I'm going to show you how to use as an example. So we're going to call this beaches because that's what we're going to find. And so there's different templates. And like I said, try everything when you're trying this on your own. They have all kinds of symbols for these particular topics, but we're going to keep it nice and general for this demonstration, and we're going to keep it into map notes. And it's going to say create. So what we're going to do is we're going to use, well, I'm going to do it, is to use the bookmark and go back to Wells, Maine. And we're going to just zoom out a little. And one of the features, I should have turned off this already, but one of the features that we're going to make is we're going to zoom in until we see the names of certain beaches that have plovers that use piping plovers. They use that beach to breed on. So let's see. So here's our beach right here. And so we're going to use one of these symbols. So maybe, actually, I'm sorry. Let's just back up for 1 minute. What we're going to do is we're going to search by the beach name. So if we put in Lod Home Beach, Wells, Maine, it's going to automatically bring us to Lod Home Beach. And we're going to say, add this to our map notes. And it's going to give us a little symbol, and it says Lod Home Beach already. And if it's not in the exact spot that you want, you're going to edit it, and it comes up with all these things that you can do, and you can just move it to the right spot. And so if we wanted to rename it, if we wanted to put more information about it, if we wanted to link to a website, or if we wanted to put an image in here, we can do all of this inside our little map note. So we're going to close this, and that means it's not editable anymore. And so I have a whole list of beaches that we're going to put in 5 of them anyways, and we're going to make an entire layer of these map notes, and then we're going to say that we're done with that, and then we're going to see what it looks like. So hold on. So one of the other beaches that we're going to look at is Crescent Surf Beach in Kennebunk, and it's automatically going to take us there. And we're going to add that to our map notes. And we're just going to edit it to actually move it down to the beach. And here's our Crescent Surf Beach. So that way it makes it totally customizable. And so another beach that we're going to go to is Ferry Beach. Let's take out the Kennebunk part. Ferry Beach in Saco, Maine. And it's going to zip us up to Ferry Beach. We're going to add it to our map notes, do a little edit, and actually put it right on the beach. And then I think let's just zoom out and see what they look like. So they all have the same symbol. When you click on them, they have the name of the beach and anything else that we want to add to it. So let's stop there. And actually, let's go back to, we do this little left caret right here, and that closes it. And here's our map notes. So if we click the map notes on, if we click the map notes off, then they disappear. Let's see. Well, actually, Okay. So if we click on the three dots over here, we can actually rename it. And so we're getting a little astray here, but we're going to name this Beaches. And we can save that. The other thing that we can do is we can save this as a layer. And it will create a layer called Beaches, and it'll be in our contents. So let's go ahead and do that. We can also set how transparent our symbols are. We can set how zoomed in or zoomed out you want it to be. And we can move it up and down in our contents area. And if we don't like what we did, we can just remove it. So let me just take a look at our elapsed time here. Okay, we have lots of time. Okay. The other thing we want to show you, so we've done the details, we've done the add. This edit button is an advanced feature. And when you click on it, it brings up our edit for our push pins. And we close that, and then we come up with our base map. But one of the first things that we want to do when we're creating a map is as soon as we start getting layers going, we want to save it. So we're going to go ahead and save it. And again, it's going to ask us for a title of our map. So we're going to just call this Beaches. It won't let you do anything unless you put tags in, because it wants everything searchable. So we're going to put Beaches as beach as a tag and Maine as a tag. And then we're going to put a short description. So Beaches of Maine. It tells you what folder we're going to save it into. And we're going to go ahead and save the map. So I know I have a lot of things in my contents, but let's just see if these two things are going to show up at the top. So here's our Beaches web map. You can share that web map with anybody by clicking on it. Let's see if we don't get too far here. Oh, it's going to load it. Okay. Right here, you can share it. You can share it with just some people, or you can share it with everyone. If you say everyone and you save it, then down here, tags, oh, where is it? If we hit this share right here, public level, where is it? Okay, save it here. Sharing level public. I think I have to get out of it and get into it, but it will have an area with a URL that you can just send people. So if we go back to our contents, let's just go back here. We also have the trails infrastructure map. We have our beaches map. Let's see, I don't see our map feature layer though. I wonder what went wrong with that. So, okay. So let's go back to our map. Okay, so for this map in particular, we're going to take off our zip codes because we don't need those, and we're going to take off our trails. When we go to use this map inside of our story map, we get to choose which of these layers are going to be presented as available in that story map, interactive map. So if we don't want people looking at our zip codes, we just make sure that's unchecked, and then they'll only have access to the layers that we have checked on. So, okay, so we have our base map, we have save. This save as is a really wonderful tool, because if you open up other people's maps, a map that you find on the web, a map that someone shares with you, if the owner of that map allows you to save it as, then you can open up their map and add your own data. So that is a really powerful tool. If you're going to be doing something to this map that you don't want to mess up your original app, you can also save it as and keep a copy of it. So those are two different ways to do that. Once you save your map, here's our share button. Here's where we get our URL. So you can share it with members of a group or your organization, and that will keep it internal, or you can share it using this URL right here. We also have the option to print, but the printing is pretty limited, but let's go ahead and show you what it looks like. So it brings up a browser with this map that's created on it, and you can print it right from your browser. But if you wanted to share it, you can also, and you can turn it landscape or portrait, you can also save it as a PDF and be able to share it that way as well. And then right here where it says print, you can also print it with the legend. So if your data is color coded in a certain way, it will come up with a legend. So our zip codes, that might not be true. Let's just see. So we go to print and we want to print it with a legend. So it'll bring up whatever layers have a legend. So if all of these beaches were coded differently, they would have all their different colors and what that code means. Okay, let's see, go back to our map. Another nice feature about a lot of land trusts use this feature for instance. So let's just go back to our trails. We can ask it to zoom in, and it'll zoom to our trails. And if we wanted to measure the length of one of our trails, we would say we want to measure length, and we can choose the units. So if we wanted to find out how many meters our trail was, then we just move, we just move this over and we start measuring. So we start, here we go. We start, if it has turns in it, you can just put another point in, and then we can see that our Barrier Beach Trail is 884 meters. And to stop, you double click it, and it keeps that right there. And then if you wanted to measure an area, again, you get to choose the denomination of the area there. And so say we wanted to see how many acres was right here. We choose it. We put our little things in. And we come up and we double click the end of it. We come up with our 5.56 acres. Let's see. Okay, so if we wanted to know the latitude of a point, a lot of researchers in particular need to know their latitude and longitude. So we would click on a point and it would give us that point, record it right here. And then if we needed to have a different one, we would click on that and that same point. So it says the latitude of your pointer or the last one that you kept. It also gives you the ability to do digital degrees or degrees, minutes, seconds, DMS. So if we click that, it gives us 43 degrees, 20 minutes, and 18.1 seconds. This form of latitude and longitude is really hard to work with in GIS. If you have digital degrees, you can have a whole column of latitudes in a Excel spreadsheet and a whole column of longitudes. And you can save that as something called a CSV, which is a type of Excel. And you can literally take that CSV and drag it on top of your map, and it will populate the map with your latitudes and longitudes the same way that it did with the zip codes. So if you're using a handheld GPS to record locations, and it has the ability to register things in digital degrees, I highly recommend it if you're going to be using it in mapping at all. But if you need to know the degrees, minutes, seconds for a summer report, then it gives you that ability as well. So let's just do a review. We've done everything up here. We've talked about our details. Oh, the other thing is that people have a heart attack when this left-hand column disappears. They can do that two ways. They can accidentally hit the caret and it disappears. And if you want it back, you just hit the details. And in our details, we have our information page, which now doesn't have the 4 directions on it because we've already added and saved our information. We have our contents page, and we have our we layers. Let's see, from our contents page, browsing the living atlas, adding layers from maybe a state server from our computer, and adding our
Whoop, I think, oh, let's see. I know a couple of people were having trouble hearing Sue. And I was as well. So it's not your internet at home. Let's see. I see she's still on in my screen, but I did. Sue, if you can hear me, I turned off your video just to help with bandwidth. I see Sue's video is back, but you're muted, Sue. There we go.
Unmute me.
Now I hear you.
Okay. How much have we, how far back did we lose good connection?
It was only a minute or two. You were like talking about if you lose your little bar, you know, I heard that part, how to bring it back.
Yeah, okay. So if for some reason we close that left-hand side content, we can get it back with our details. And these are 3 places, 3 tabs for this. Informations tab now doesn't have those 4 basic directions because we've saved our map and it assumes that we know what we're doing, which is a big assumption sometimes. But now it gives us the information about our map in particular. And this is our contents, the layers that we have.
We lost your screen share too, I think, when you got cut out. So we're not seeing your screen right now.
Oh, goodness. So, okay, share screen. Screen 2, share again. How's that look?
It looks great. And we have some great questions in the Q&A too, whenever we get to that time.
Yes, so we are just about there, actually. Before we lost, or maybe we didn't lose this, but we've gone over all of these tools in the toolbar. And I think let's go ahead and take some questions then. So I can stop sharing so that you can see me, or maybe it's a question that I can zoom around here. Let me know.
Maybe leave it up for right now. I think some of the questions, it will be helpful to have the screen. So one question we have from Mary Kay that has a couple of, or it's our highest ranked question right now. And for those of you guys participating, don't forget to go into the little thumbs up to the questions you want to hear answered. So Mary Kay asked if there are historical aerials available anywhere on ArcGIS.
That is an excellent question. And I can tell you that one of your choices for a base map is something called NAPE imagery. And it's just, it's the, here we go, National Agricultural Imagery Program. And it only shows you the current NAPE imagery for your area. But I'm pretty sure that the NAPE website has historical imagery that is available to use in your map. So that is excellent. That's an excellent question.
All right, so they can go to that NAPE website.
Yes, and see if they are serving up their historic data. If you have historic data aerials, you can import those and say to use it as your base map as well. So I'm not quite sure what the format is, but yeah, so you can investigate that about using your own imagery, historic imagery that's been geo-referenced. You can bring that in and choose to use it as your base map or as a separate layer.
Great, thanks, Sue. Then the next question that we have from Rachel is asking if the content of the map is private, and she says if we add sensitive information, will others be able to access it without our permission? And she works with archaeological sites that she wants to map, but their location's protected.
Yep, so you get to choose what data is available in your map when you share it. So that's another good way to save as and remove your sensitive information. If there's just like one layer that you don't want people to say, save it as, and then share that new map as well. So there's a couple workarounds for that. But when you go to share it and when you go to use it in an interactive story map, you get to choose what layers are visible to the public. Great question.
And so then I just want to make sure I understand too, the default is it's going to be private until you make it public. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. So then another question from Mary Kay is asking if you can add your own background map. So maybe you could talk a little bit more about how to add your own background maps.
Yeah, so if we go to add backgrounds and we search, we add a layer from file. Let's see what we've got here. If your background map is, I'm not quite sure how to get it into a geo. Let me think about this. No, I don't think that's the way to add it. I personally have never added a background map, but I guarantee that there's a way to do it and to add it as a base map or a background map. This is what we're going to do. We're going to, at the end of this, we're going to create a FAQ for questions that we weren't able to answer, and I'll put in a resource for you for that one in particular, how to add your own background map.
Great, thanks, Sue. So yeah, I said, yes, you can, but yeah, we'll follow up with that FAQ, give you more details. So our next question is from Kristen, and she asks, can I only share ArcGIS online maps I have made with people who have an ArcGIS online account, or can anyone with the link view the map?
Anybody with the link. If you choose, when you go to, let me just get back to contents here. And when our map comes up and we click on it and it brings up all the details of our map, right here under share, again, you can share with everybody. You can share with just an internal group or a group that you set up of people with licenses that you all share each other's stuff, or you can share it with everybody. So you get to choose the sharing level of both your data and your map. Is that a good answer?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay.
You
have control. You have control over everything.
It's great. So there's a question from Catherine that asks, how do I export a map into ArcGIS Pro?
Yes, so let me just, oh, should have stayed back in contents, right here in contents. When you make a map, like right here, and you go to open it, it will say open in map viewer. For me, I only have desktop, but open in ArcGIS desktop or open in ArcGIS Pro. And if you click well, I have the program on here, but if you click on ArcGIS Pro, it'll open the program, it'll import all of the layers that you have in your map, and you can just go from there. One of the benefits of Pro is that it interacts with your online maps very well.
Well, that seems super easy. All right.
This button right here that says create a web app, that's going to be our next course, I think, because you can make these maps that you share that actually have tools in them for people to be able to search a particular thing out of all of your layers, or change the way it looks. That's this little button will be our next thing, how to make a web app.
Oh, can't wait. And Sue, did you want to just take another 1 or 2 questions and then we'll go to the break?
Yep.
Okay. So from Sarah, we have the question, is ArcGIS Map Online compatible with layers created in QGIS?
Okay, so that's an excellent question. And so QGIS uses the same shapefile format that ArcGIS Online and any of the Esri products use. And so let me just show you, remember we added that GeoJSON thing? Well, one of the things that I also have is add a layer from file, and we're going to choose the file. This is the same zip code layer, and it's actually, let me double, it's not going to show us that, but that zip contains all of the different parts of a shapefile layer. So if you create a shapefile in QGIS and you take all the parts of that shapefile and zip it together, then you can import it. As long as it's zipped, you can import the data into your online map.
All right, great. I love that map that you made too. So cool.
Okay.
All right, you want one more question maybe?
Yeah, one more question and then we'll.
Okay. So let's see, it's got 2 that are tied. So this one from Daniel is asking that he sees a lot less base maps than when you pull up your base maps. Is that?
Interesting. Yes. Yeah. So it would be interesting to know, Daniel, if you have a public account or if your organizational account doesn't give you something called publisher rights, which is the sort of the same thing as having a developer account. So it could be that if you have a public account, it only gives you the basic 9, which is still a lot of base maps. Or if your organizational account doesn't give you publisher privileges, you might only be able to see the basic 9 as well.
But those base maps that are showing up with your account are from the developer account. They're not maps that you have added in, correct?
They are not, no.
So great. I think that answers his question probably then. I do see that we have a couple of other questions still there, but we have lots of people today. So I think we'll go ahead and take the break.
Okay, that sounds great. And we'll see you back in 10 minutes.
All right, so if you guys will be back at 5 after, we will get started back up then, but we're gonna give everybody's brain a second to take in all that information.
Especially mine. Thanks.
Thanks, Sue.
Okay.
Hey Sue, I just wanted to give you a heads up that I turned your video off, so you'll just need to hit the little video button. I can stop sharing this.
It says the host has stopped it.
Oh, do I need to start it? It has to start. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
There we go.
Whew. We could spend the whole break just answering the questions.
A lot of good questions. I answered a few that I knew how to answer, but some of
Yes,
them were too hard.
I answered a lot of them too, but we will produce that FAQ. Is there a way to export the questions?
Yes, yeah, we'll have a log of it.
Okay, excellent. Well, I got lost a couple of times, but hopefully it wasn't too bad.
Oh, it was great. I learned a lot. So do you want to go ahead and get started with the story maps part?
Sure, yeah. But let's, what time do we want to quit? I mean, to ask questions.
Oh, so that we have time at the end, maybe like 10 till. We'll allow some 10 minutes for questions at the end. Does that
Okay.
sound?
Yeah. I'm good when you are. Are we on?
Sorry, yeah, it's all going.
Sorry, we didn't quite get the right cue there. Okay, so we're back. We hope you had a little time to rest your brains. We're not going in a totally different direction, but we're going to learn something new and then integrate the two things. So we are going to share our screen. Share. Okay. So when we talked about the ArcGIS Online Maps, we said that the output was a map. And now we're just going to talk about what you can do with a story map before we get too much into it. So our story map output is that we can use it in education, for fundraising, for reports. But mostly the biggest thing that we can use it for is a call to action. So keep that in your mind as we're going through these slides. And let me just back up. Here's our 10-minute bio break from Calvin and Hobbes. So, okay. I researched quite a bit of how to tell a good story, and the easiest story map to create is called a hero's journey. And so these are the basic questions that when we tell a hero's journey, it's the basic questions that get answered in the story. First of all, who or what is the hero of the story? And so this hero does not have to be a person, although I really like the hero over here in the Code of Honor, Hour of Code, website. She sort of reminds me of me, but anyways, the hero can also be a place. So it can be the Wells Reserve, it can be anywhere that you're trying to save a habitat, whatever. It can also be a thing such as this piping plover here, plover. And so this piping plover is going to be the hero of the story that we're going to create in a minute. But here's the other questions we want to ask. What adventure or challenge does the hero have? So, you can't be a hero unless you're out there doing something difficult or challenging or having an adventure. So we want to make sure that that's clear about what is the problem with the hero, what the hero's trying to resolve, what situation are they in. And then we also want to include who helps our heroes and how are they helping our heroes. And so that makes it a really easy story to tell in most of all of our situations for sure. And then how does that affect our hero? Does that solve the whole problem? Does it only solve a little bit of the problem? What is left? Does the issue get resolved? So if the issue is not resolved and it's an ongoing problem, then we have a call to action. What can I do to help? And that's a really powerful thing. So if you tell a great story, that's a very powerful thing at the end. Now you've educated people about what's going on, and you give them resources to say, this is a way you can help in a small way or in a big way. You can volunteer, all these kinds of things. So we're going to go ahead and build a story map. And so let's just get to it. So we just want to see the example of the story map that we sent out with the tasks for the webinar. And again, this was made by a person that took the course last year when we talked about another product called Survey 123. They created this great story map, and they actually have a great call to action. So, but let's just see how they use the map part of it, which is really good. So they started out with an impactful photograph. This is a beautiful photograph. It really makes you want to know what the story is all about. And then it gets you a title and a subtitle and has great graphics. It gives you links to other places, but here's their first interactive map. And so you can click on these things and jump right to that, or you can simply scroll down there or scroll up their webpage. And as you scroll, it's going to zoom in on these locations. So we scroll down some more, it zooms to a different place. This is all set up when you create your story map. The other thing that I liked about this story map is that it was not too long, but it definitely gave you a lot of information at once. So how to participate in this project. This is what the whole story map is about. They have all these plants that they're, the plants really are the hero. We're trying to get them mapped, and we could use your help. So you create an iNaturalist account. This is all the directions on how to do it with a very nice, clean graphic about how that works exactly. And then it tells you the particulars, and then it actually has another embedded map right from iNaturalist that has the dots of the recorded flora. And when you click on the dot, let's see if that's a true statement. I thought yes. So when you click on the dot, it actually brings up the record. Now, sometimes when these records get a little askew, you can fix it by zooming in or zooming out of the map. Let's see if we can get it to show. Wait till it redraws for a second. Okay. Well, that seems to be the issue, huh? Why would that be? Let's try doing it the other way. No, it's not going to budge. All right, well, let's try it that down here. Maybe it's that always, it's just that always the info box shows up at the top. So it gives you the whole record right from IMAP. That's an incredible thing. So these are two separate interactive maps that the user gets to pan and zoom and click on the information and get more information about it. So then it just ends with how important these plants are, and it just says powered by StoryMap. So that was very well done. It gets you involved, and it tells the whole hero story. This is the plants are the heroes. They need our help to be mapped, and this is how you do it. Okay, let's see. How are we going to do that? Okay. Does this thing move? Hold on. We're having trouble getting to our... Okay, let me just... Oh, right there. Okay. So all I'm going to do is put in story map login. Again, you go to your story maps, you log in, and it will bring you to, let's just click on this and then we'll make it big. Because I logged in and I already have these story maps created, it will show me all of my story maps, if I have them favorited somewheres, if they're part of a group. But we want to start a whole new story map. So I actually, let me make this big again. There's a button right here that says Start New Story. But before we do that, see the screen sharing. Oh, it's getting in my way a little bit. Okay. Before we do that, the best way, the easiest way to make a story map is to plan ahead. And the document that we sent out with the course sort of has resources that if you pull them all together, making your story map is going to be very simple. So here's what I did for this Plover story map, is I created a document that I can just highlight the document, highlight the text, Control C, and copy it right into the story map. And I've also put, this isn't the link to the JPEG, but I also put what photo goes where. And so I have these photos, they reside on my computer. So they're all together on one folder. So after I find the first one, the next ones will be easy to find. Excuse me. And so this is it. This is all the parts of my story. It looks rather long, but it really isn't a long story. So I am going to, so this is going to be off screen, but I wanted you to know what it was going to look like so that you understand what it is I'm doing when I'm off screen and cutting and pasting. So here we have our, here we're going to have our new story map. And it's going to be, we're going to start from scratch because these things right here are like specific kinds of story maps, but we're going to integrate all kinds of different things. So we're going to start from scratch. And it loads this builder. And really, it helps you through the whole thing. So we're going to title our story and well, maybe we can do it from right here. Here's our title, Small But Fierce. So we want to have a catchy title. Something, yeah, it won't let me do that. Okay, so hold on over here. We are going to go to here and get the document up. We could just type in the short things, but the paragraphs we want to just be able to cut and paste. So this will just take 1 second. All right, well, we'll start in with the small but fierce. Why is that coming up twice? Okay. Let's just get out of there for a minute. Oh no, we're having technical difficulties here. Okay. Efforts to save paint lovers. So here's our title. I don't know why it's going a little. Why does it come on twice? Okay, we haven't figured that out yet. Okay, we're just going to leave it as small for the moment. See if we can come back to that. So right here is add your cover image or videos. I've seen some fantastic little GIFs that have been used as a video on some of these covers. So browse your files. Let's see if we're going to have any issues here. No, it comes right up to my folder. Go look at that. Okay, so here is our okay, well, we're just going to use this one then. So we're going to add this, and you can also, if your photos are located somewhere where you can copy their URL, like in a on the web somewhere, you can also just use the URL. So we're going to add it, and it comes up with this options and also these 3 dots where if you don't like it, you can replace it. But let's look at the options. So for this option, it shows you a preview of your photo, what it looks like on a phone and what it looks like on a desktop. So you always should think about the smallest possible way that people are going to see this. So it allows you to change the focus. If you wanted the focus to be on the adult plover rather than on the chick, you can just drag that dot around and show what it will look like on your different devices. And if you want to add an attribute, so this is a main Audubon photograph. And last thing right here, properties, you can put text as optional. So let's just put that in for screen readers, or if the photo doesn't load, we're going to put in plover family and save. Okay, so now we have our impactful photograph. We have our thing. Uh-oh, see, I don't know why that is. Okay, we're going to move on. We have our more information about our title. What happens is all the title pages are identical. But when you go to your next block of information, it gives you a lot of choices. And so in this next block, you are able to add a text box, buttons and separators. I don't know about those two very well. You're able to add a map, an image, a video. I think these two are either going to be available soon. You can add a swipe, which we're going to do in a minute. This is coming. You can add a whole image gallery. These are all individual elements that you can add. And then it gives you these three choices for sort of a ready-made formatted, they call it an immersive block. So when you create one of these, it sort of formats it for you and tells you how to do them next. So let's just see what I had on my, yeah, that's not opening. Okay. So what we're going to do is we are going to add a text box. And we're just going to put in a little quote that says, sorry, though she be small, she is fierce. And we're just going to say that's from William Shakespeare. That sort of gives the people an understanding of why we named it that, which we seem to be having trouble with. Okay, so that's just a little quote. And now we're going to add a new text box. And we're going to start to tell the story of our hero. So we are actually going to use something called a slideshow. And so what it does is it's going to tell the story in several slides, I guess, or what they're called actually. And so when people, well, let's just do this. Okay. The journey begins. We're going to have a graphic of their migration route right here. And we are going to, yep, that's about it.
Hey, Sue,
Yes.
this is Marissa. If I have a couple people saying that they're having a hard time hearing you, your video's lagging. Maybe we can have you turn off your video so we can have a little bit extra bandwidth going to your screen share.
Okay, yeah, sure, excellent, thank you. Okay, How is my voice now? Is that better?
Yes, it's better on my end.
Okay. Okay. So we have a slide that talks about its, so see how you can't see this whole map? If you go to options, it will give you a choice to fill the whole map and crop it, or to not crop it. And again, it gives you a place for attributes. I can't remember the attribute particulars right here. But now when we save this, instead of taking up the whole screen, now we can see it. We can see the entire map. And so over here, if we just put the journey begins in March, the plovers start their migration to Maine's beaches. Okay. Now, see right here, we can add a new slide, and we're actually going to put in our interactive map. So it's going to go back to our contents page, and we're actually going to put in this interactive. Let me just, yeah, this is the one we want to use. So it's going to load all the places that plovers come to breed. Over here, if there's anything that you do not want people to see, you can just hit this and it will take off whatever in that layer. So, and if there's any additional edits that you want to make to the map, you can edit it right from your story map right here. It will take you back to your page, your map, and then you can do anything that you need to do to it. And then you can save it and you can go back to your story. Let's see if it will take us back to our story. Okay. And then we're going to say place map. So then again, it's going to load the map, hopefully. And see how it takes up the whole background? Well, because this is a nice interactive map, we're going to leave it taking up the whole background, and we're going to give them some direction on how to use this interactive map. So here are the places. Oh, let's just put Maine beaches. These are the only beaches in Maine that plovers use. Okay. And then we're going to add one more piece to this little puzzle here. Maine beaches in summer. So imagine that you're a plover and you're coming to your Maine beach to raise your family, and it's a Maine beach in summer. And this is what it looks like. And you can just say, even though okay, let's see what this all looks like so far. So one of the beautiful things about your story map is as you are making it, you can preview it as well. You hit the preview button and it brings it up in your browser as if you are the end user. And this is what it looks like. So here's the first photo, And this little eye will bring up the attribute, usually after you publish it. Small but fierce, here we go. It still says that it's in draft mode because we have not actually made it public yet. The journey begins. Now watch these text boxes. If we had several of these text boxes that had to do with this map, they would just scroll through. Oh, right here. And then they click over to the left, and then we come to our interactive map where we can pan, zoom, touch our information. It tells us where it is, and it also tells us the name of the beach, Sewell Beach. So, okay, whoops, and then we have one more slide, and then it shows our situation on main beaches in the summer. So then we can close the preview, and we can, I think we closed one too many previews here. Let's see, we can get back to it. Okay, here we go. Okay, even though we closed it, it was in our contents and we brought it back. So now we are in draft mode still. This little guy. We can get back to designing it and start editing it again. Oops, wait a minute, not design. Edit story. Okay. The journey begins. We have a little prompt to go to the right. We have our 3 slides. Oh, that was the end of it. Okay. So here are 3 slides. You can reorder them by clicking and moving, and that will reorder your slides. And then we get to choose a whole new block. So let's choose a new block. And in this case, instead of a slideshow where people have to go to the right to advance it, we're going to put in something called a sidecar. And so when we have a sidecar, we have 2 floating panels, and you can either have the information that you're going to put on it float in the middle, or you can have your media totally to the right and you can have your information on the side. So let's try a docked panel. And we're going to add our media. We're going to add an image. Let's just stop for a minute. And let me show you the final project that we created up until this point. So here is our small but fierce, and it's coming up in a different format, and I'm not quite sure why. But let's just have a look at this. Our small but fierce, though she beastie is fierce, quote. Okay, here's what I forgot to put in. This is the background of the project for Maine Audubon, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and Maine Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. So it talks about a little bit of the background. It brings the map up. It brings Maine's map, the beaches up. And it talks about so we forget to put in about, okay, and then we talk about that, and then we finally talk about how development and hardened shores are stressing out the poor plovers, and about predation. All right. Yeah, for some reason that's not working for us. So let's talk about how changes in the coast also occur naturally. So what we're going to do here is we are going to add media. Right, so we're going to talk about, let me just find it. All right, we're just going to write a little bit about this photo right here. So hold on, we're going to make it so that we can see the whole photo. Do not crop. And we're just going to say that beaches are dynamic habitats. Okay, and then I think that's going to be it for this. And now we are going to do something called a swipe. A swipe is when you compare two web maps that show different layers or two images. So let me just show you how this works. This says add web map 1 and web map 2, or add an image here and an image there. And so what I did was I went to Google Earth and I took 2 screen captures of different times of Lodholm Beach. And so I saved those as images. So we're going to add the left image here. So I actually named it left image. And this is from 2013. We're going to add that. It adds it over here. And then we're going to add the right image, browse to your map, and right photo. And then what this enables you to do is we want to talk about how beaches change so much. And so it allows you to slide from one image to the other and see the differences in the mouth of, in this case, the little river. So you can do that with two ArcGIS online maps if you have different backgrounds for each of them, or you can do it with just photographs. All right, let's see what we haven't done. So we did coastal changes, moved the slider tool, talks about how resilient they are and how they re-nest all the time. And then we're going to talk about helping hands. So we're going to add a little section in here about, we'll do a slide, this right here, and we'll call it helping hands. So this is the part of the hero's journey where we actually talk about how people are helping them. And we're going to add our media. Browse the files. We have our helping hand people. And I think we're just gonna let it take up the background. And we're just gonna put in a little more okay. And in continuing with this theme of helping hands, this is how we use these slides. We talk about how, okay, when cleverness are found, disclosures are set up. add the media, add our media, go to browse. And here we have exposures. Add. Okay. So now we've talked about two ways that we have helping hands for people. And then we're gonna end this with a sidecar. A map tour didn't really work for this particular story, but it did on the Flora story map. So if you have a story that takes place in several different places and you want to talk about each of these different places, then you would use this map tour button. But we're just going to put in one more sidecar. And let's try a docked panel just to show you the difference. So that way, the story part of it does not float over the media. It separates it into two different things. And you can have your story part of it on the left or on the right, I think switches it that way, yes. So we're just going to continue it. Let's see what you can do to help. This is our call to action. And it is right here. So this was taken off the main Audubon's website with their permission. We add it. And then it lists all the different things. When you go to put in more data, is it true? Okay, so it lists all the things that you can do, and then you want to round out your story. Now, this isn't the best story map I've ever made, but it just was meant to show you the different elements that you can put in your story map. So we're done with that one. We're just going to end it out with a little text that says, I'm drawing a blank here. Okay, hold on. It just calls it matter. Oh, wait, I know what I was going to say. With a little help, both people and lovers can share the beach. See, this bit of text is not associated with one of these big blocks. So then it just stands on its own. So you can format these in so many different ways. We're going to add just a standalone image. And we're going to end with this little thing right here. We're going to add it. And then that's the end of this particular story. Oh, I forgot to mention that all images you can put a caption for as well. So let's look at the one that took a long time to make and was better organized. Okay, so we got up to the slider map, which can be really a powerful tool. And then we talked about the resilience. We talked about lending a helping hand and how that happens. The exclosures. We put in a little graph here, actually, for people to be able to see. Since 1981, we had 9 chicks and 10 pairs of plovers, and we've gone up to over 100 chicks and over 60 plover pairs. So that's huge, huge. And then the call to action, these are actually hyperlinked to take you to the main Audubon's website and learn more. And then it just ends with the same little photo. Okay. That wasn't the smoothest, but it hopefully will give you an idea. And if you follow the format that I laid out on the handout, it will get you quite a ways. But I have also put out this, we're going to share the slides with you as a PDF. And I've also put out two columns of resources, one of them for ArcGIS Online to learn more about how you can use that more effectively. This is a whole course on learning ArcGIS Online, and this will start you getting with advanced features if you have a publisher or a developer account. And also for the education departments, I put in this resource to teaching GIS Online from K through 12. These geo inquiries are amazing products that you can use for free to teach mapping to kids. And then in Storymaps, this is a whole new tutorial about authoring and publishing your first story and more tips about how to be an effective storyteller. And then the last slide looks crazy, but it takes you from a title slide and it tells you what all of your next options are. And then if you choose an immersive block, it tells you what your options are there. And then if you choose a sidecar, it will tell you, let me get rid of that thing right there. It'll tell you whether you want a floating or a docked one. And then you just go on to your next block. So once you start, this is sort of your roadmap about the possibilities that you can do in each part of your story map. Jessica, I'm pretty sure that's all I have to talk about. Yeah, if you want to, oh, I started my video again.
Yeah.
And so I can leave, I can keep my screen up if people have questions about something on the screen, or I can close it and we can just video chat. Which way would you like to do that, you think?
Maybe for this, stop the screen share, because I think most of the questions that we have, you'll probably just want to talk through
Okay.
the answers. And yeah, we have a couple of good questions, I think. And I wanted to say to William Klein that I am going to make sure to put you in touch with Sue. I think that example, Sue, you were showing with the slider with historical imagery is going to help him with a project he wants to do.
Yeah.
So perfect. So I'm going to just pick the questions that are about the last segment that you presented on. So we have one from Joy that asks if the slider automatically does it automatically match up the image features, or do you need to make sure they're the same size first?
Yes, you need to make sure that if you're doing a photo, you need to make sure that the photos are exactly in the same spot. If you're using two maps, it automatically lines up those two maps. So when you zoom into whatever it is on the map that you're comparing on each map, it will find that geolocation and automatically zoom the other map to it. It is quite a powerful little tool.
It is neat. Okay, and then a question from Laurel. Can story maps be created collaboratively between two different Arc Online accounts?
Interesting. I've not created one, but I think if you create a story map in a group and everyone in the group has edit ability, then anyone should be able to open it and add more content to it.
Okay, so if they're in your group, you could do the settings that way.
I think so, but I would be really interested to know of a group that does a collaborative story map. That would be really nice to know.
That would be nice, yeah. So if anybody has any examples, let us know in the chat for
Please,
sure.
yes.
And Hannah asks if story maps are ADA compliant, and is there a way to check the accessibility for the story?
Interesting. They don't, it doesn't have ADA specific tools in it, but if you're aware of, like, color blindness issues, you can make your maps to, let me think about that. I think there's, for color blindness anyway, there's a website that you put in the URL and it tells you if the colors within your, whatever it is that it's looking at, are compatible with that particular issue. Also, for the photographs and graphics, you have your alternate text. So if, for instance, the story is brought up by someone with visual problems, then it will, and if the story is being read to you, it will read your alternate text. So that's always a good idea to have alternate text in your graphics. I don't know what other ADA things in particular we could think about adapting the map, the story map to, but that's always a good question.
So those alternative text for the photos would be one way to make it ADA compliant for people with vision impairments, and
Yes.
anything beyond
Also,
that sounds like.
When you actually open a story map up in a browser, you have the option to run it automatically, and it will run at 1x is like a normal go through it. I don't know what the seconds are between the screens, but you can also have it go slower and go faster. So you would not have to click through, it would just run. And that's a really nice thing. One of the things I'm trying to advocate for is using story maps instead of printed posters in poster sessions. So you could have this running automatically. You could have a mouse there and people could scroll through it themselves so that they could interact with the maps and the data. And I think that's what the world should be working towards, is no more paper posters. Anyways, I think this would be a good alternative to a paper poster, especially now that we're hosting things virtually for a little while longer, it seems. The story maps would be an excellent way to share the data.
Yeah, I like it. I would enjoy seeing that at a conference. Okay, let's see. The next one about the story maps is from Mary Kay, asking if the story map is downloadable or does it need a web connection to ArcGIS?
It just needs an internet connection or a browser. It just needs a browser. It's a browser run thing. So I don't think you can download it as a, I don't think it's downloadable. Okay. Unless you saved it. No, I can't even think how you would do that.
You might want to just do something else in that case, like make a presentation or use a different.
Yeah, a PowerPoint saved as a PDF or something like that.
Yeah. And then we have a question from Jill that asks, can you add bookmarks to your swipe maps to focus on different areas?
Oh, interesting. I think what you would want to do instead of a swipe map for that would be the points of interest map, where the, like they did in the Flora map, where your text comes up and it zooms to that area. And then, or you click on the number and it zooms to, it scrolls down to the text. I think that would be a better use. I do not think you can do bookmarks on a swipe. But every year, I'm telling you, things change. And I've only told you the basics of this. There's a whole advanced features that we actually didn't get into. And that a lot of that deals with the actual look of the story map, how you can brand things and have a whole color palette and all of the things that I do not yet know how to use. So
yeah, they're always doing updates. Okay, and then we have, this might be the last question with the story map stuff. Rachel asks, how can I share this with just a few people, not necessarily those within my organization?
Yep, so when you publish your story map, it produces a URL for you, and then you share that URL with whoever you want. So how limited or how general you go is up to you.
Okay, so there's no way for people to find that URL just by poking around on Arc.
No, not unless you post it as a, I don't think so. Not that I can think of.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Oh, we did have one more that just came in. Do you know if the story map could be exported as a self-running like YouTube type video?
Well, let me think about that. So I use Screencastify all the time, and that creates whatever's on your screen that puts it into I'm pretty sure an MP4. And so you could actually, if you ran through it, you would have the option to narrate into it, but you would have the option to scroll through it and create a video from it also. But they wouldn't have the major thing for story maps is the ability to have interaction with maps as well. So like I said, both of these programs can stand alone. You can create as many maps as you want and not have it in a story map. And you can have an entire story map with no maps whatsoever. It's really up to you how you use these things.
Great. Well, we're almost at the top of the hour again. So Sue, thank you so much. I know that I learned a lot from hearing this. I'm sure everybody else did as well.
Yeah.
And as you guys,
when I plan it, it's all perfectly in order and everything works. And then when I do it, things take a left-hand turn like they do in life, and we get through one way or another. So thanks for being patient with me.
You were not shaken. You just picked it right back up again, even when your internet cut out. And we will, when you log out of the webinar, you're going to get automatically directed to an evaluation for the class. So please take that, give us feedback. Let us know if there's other topics. Sue and I have been talking about maybe doing another webinar about Survey 123 or some of these other applications. So let us know and we will listen to that feedback.
We do actually look at the feedback every time before we start a new course too, to make sure that we don't miss anything. So one of the feedback from the last course is that we tried to do too much in 2 hours. And so that's why for this in particular course, we only did 2 subjects and did not throw in Survey 123. So we cut it back by a lot.
Believe it or not, there was less today.
Yes.
And, we will be sharing a recording of the webinar. It'll probably take a day or 2 to process it and put it up, but you will get a follow-up email with Sue's PowerPoint, PDF, the link to the recording, and of course, the additional request to fill out the survey if you don't straight after the webinar.
Right. They really are important to us, actually. We like to know how we're doing and how we can always make it better.
Yes. And Sue, I'll download the Q&A record as well. If you want, you can hang around, you can finish typing in answers, but I can download that, you can add to it, and we can share that out with that follow-up as well.
Actually, if you download it, then I can find the references and put in a URL for those as well.
Yeah. Oh, how nice. There's a comment in the chat from Jackie that says, awesome job, thank you. You really made what seems like a complicated tool feel very accessible.
Oh, that's excellent. That makes sense.
It does. It's not so hard when you can go back, especially and watch the recording and follow super long.
Yes. Yep, absolutely. And so I made the finished product for the plovers available to Maine Audubon to use however they'd like. And the reason that subject came up in particular is that it's March now and they're going to start showing up on our beaches. So they're going to use it in a blog to send out to people and just get them thinking plovers when they go to the beach.
Oh, that's great. I guess they're leaving the warm weather places now and starting to head up.
Yes. Yep.